Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Tree Actions, the Human Forestry Podcast. And just smudging us in here.
Look at that. Blowing
Yeah.
smoke.
And, joining me today for our wrap-up episode for 2025 is my trusted counterpart and colleague and friend, Tony. Morning, Tony.
Good morning, everyone. It's the end of the year. This is one of the rare times that we'll record a podcast and then almost immediately publish it. So we're like real time.
Yeah, almost. That's right. And we just thought we would, we kind of have surprised ourselves, when we started the podcast. I mean, who knew, Tony, we'd be here what is it? We have a bunch of statistics for you today, just for those tree action buffs
Yeah.
and if you like that sort of thing. But it's 3 years ago. Was it December 20?
December 20th of 2022, we did our very first episode, which was just kind of welcomes and introductions. And it's not very long. It's not a long episode.
And it's you and I?
Yeah, just you and me. Since then, we have had, things keep expanding. We have had, this is episode number 80. Nice round number there.
80. Nice round, yeah.
We've had 76 guests total. The reason there's a disparity is we do our year-round wrap-up, right?
Yeah.
And the other thing is we published a couple in the first year, maybe the second year, the Sprouts. Remember when we were at the Ontario ISA? We just walked around and randomly interviewed people. So those count towards our episode count total. But we've had a total of 76 independent guests, which means 76 independent shows like this, right?
And some of the
over the course of 3 years. Yep, some of them did, some didn't, which is fine. And then if you look at our analytics, it can get kind of weird. I don't know how many people actually subscribe. You can't really guess. What I can tell you is that of all the episodes that we've published, 80 of them, we've had 6,113 downloads to date. Now that might, it's spread across all the episodes. As you would expect, the episodes that have been on longer have more downloads.
Right.
They've been there long. And our guest distribution, it's like I said, I can tell what the 30 days of downloads was, the most 30 days. I think, let's see if I go all the way down. And it's not quite a fair statistic because some of the episodes haven't been out 30 days. Noel Boyer was downloaded 66 times within the first 30 days, which is the highest, right? And then Jared was 56. Don Blair was 56, Otis was 55, Matt was 55, Scott was 55, and then it ticks up from there. So
interesting.
I can't tell how many people we have that are subscribers. I don't know. If I had to guess, I would say there's probably a dozen to 20 of you hardcore people out there that download us pretty regularly. So thank you very much.
Yeah.
We have, I should pull up the Patreon numbers because our Patreon has been good. It's been see if I can find it here. See how many Patreon members we have.
And just so those of you are wondering, Patreon gets you early access to each episode 1 week earlier than the regular folk. And we would do it. Is there a couple bonus things we were going to do more? I don't know if we.
Yeah. If you remember, so we have essentially 20 people signed up on Patreon, some paid, some free. Both is fine. Appreciate it. All of it. If you're a paid member, then basically you can, it's the only place to access us directly via social media and the chat there. And then oftentimes if I have different things that I've recorded or done, like I've recorded some of my, speaking engagements and stuff for various reasons, I've put them up there. And it's always a place where we can share those things. Everybody has good intentions, and I always mean to put more up there, but I haven't quite got to it. But very appreciative of the paid members because while this podcast isn't expensive to run by any means, and we do it as a labor of love, and I would do it even without the Patreon support. It is nice to get that little bit of monetary support, and we use it solely to offset the costs of Riverside, which is our recording platform, and then Transistor, which is the platform that posts it to make it a podcast, right? So that you can see it. So it's great. I appreciate it. It's fun. And we do, like you said, every episode goes on there a week early. It's the same episode. I don't change the edits or anything. I don't edit the podcasts very much anyway.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, you get it a week early, and then like I said, there's sometimes there's some chat going on there on the backside, with some things and some comments and stuff. But if you're a paid Patreon member, and you ever have any suggestions for guests or anything, probably the best way to get it to us is through that platform.
Okay.
Or if you're not a Patreon member and you don't want to be a Patreon member, you have the Instagram page, right, Dwayne? So you could message through that and say, hey, this person should really be on Tree Actions, and we'll do our
And
best.
then LinkedIn is you post on LinkedIn, but is that just on your account?
Yeah, my LinkedIn account is just my professional account, just Anthony Tressel, arborist. And I just we do the video, just a little blurbs up. I figured, why not?
Yeah.
Um, you
We
cannot
don't
put a
have
link there.
can you make a could you make a link? LinkedIn has to be a personal kinda thing, I think, doesn't it?
I don't know.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
I limit my social media exposure through choice. I don't have anything against social media. What I find is it tends to be a big time vampire for me, which is an internal phrase from Train the Trainer. But if you can't get what it means from the outside looking in, it just sucks time away that I don't really want to use on that. So I don't do a lot of social media contacts. There is no LinkedIn page because I simply just don't want to manage another page. Right.
Yeah,
And
the
I'm not
rabbit
sure
hole that
how
is
far
social
it would,
media.
and I don't mind it. I'm not anti-social media. I just have found that it tends to take a lot of my time away when I get involved in it, and I'm like, "What am I doing?
Well, I
What's
when
happening
you
here?"
suffer from alcoholism, anything can become very quickly addictive.
Right. Well, I mean, there's only so many hours in the day, right? Like, and every great person has the exact same amount of hours, right? So I can't sit there and say that, well, I don't have enough time. It's like, that's not true. You're just not using your time well enough. So when I look at things that I can eliminate, social media is one of those. I'm like, it's not, I don't, I'm not saying that I don't peruse YouTube every now and then at my off time, but I try
Well,
not to do
man,
that during
that's
the day.
interesting because I don't know if I would consider YouTube a social media platform. Is it?
What do you mean?
Well, I don't YouTube's more like an informational platform. I don't know that I would call like, social media to me is things like Insta, TikTok, Face Faceplant, that whereas YouTube's like, educational, you can even watch
Uh,
shows, whereas you can't really do that on Netflix or I mean on, Facebook and stuff.
I would say it's just a different format of social media because you
Really?
can comment, right?
Interesting.
And
Yeah, on your
engage in
channels.
the,
Yeah, see,
I
I
mean,
would've
you
never
can close
classified that
comments.
as a social media platform in the same way. 'Cause you
Mm,
don't really have your own account. I guess some people have their own accounts and you can
yeah.
but it's not like a you don't see people posting their favorite, what they're having for supper on YouTube typically. It's usually,
Maybe you're not
on
subscribed
Facebook.
to the right YouTube channels if you want to see that.
Yeah, I guess.
Right.
I never thought of it as a
Either way's fine. Although we have thought about putting tree actions up on YouTube, which would
yeah.
be relatively simple to do. We haven't quite got around to it. Might still
Well, we haven't
consider it.
utilized our video. We don't really
Mhm.
use our video, right? And I don't know, I don't know if that would change things or not. I often will listen to things on YouTube while I'm driving, but not watch 'em, and, I sometimes lament that I'm using data that I don't need to use, all I need is the audio, but
Mhm.
I've gotten over that, and I'll let the video play without watching it and just listen.
I think if we went to YouTube, I would still only just post the audio. 2 reasons. 1,
Okay.
I don't wanna have to take the time to edit the video. And 2, I think a lot of our guests, I don't know, a lot of them come on and they're relatively unsure about what a whole podcast thing is, and just adding the video aspect to it, I think might change it more into a job interview
Yeah.
or a more formal thing than we actually
Well,
do.
and then everybody would know that we are always naked as well, which
Exactly, and then, I'd actually have to dress, which would not be good. So I think if posting it to YouTube would simply be to get more exposure to it out there, which is fine.
we
It
we
just,
couldn't sit naked on our bar stools as we do.
exactly. Now everybody's wondering like, "Man, you don't wanna see that. Trust me,
Yeah,
you
it's
don't."
like they say, "Tony, you still got it, but nobody wants to see it."
Exactly. What I got, I don't know, but I still got it.
But anyways, it is our final episode of 25, and, we thank everybody for listening, and we'd like to have a little wrap up, and this is it. This as well as a tradition, and if you've been listening, you know that it's, the Tony and Dwayne show, as our final episode. You know, where the podcast's so disorganized, we repeat, and we also but yet we develop these traditions, so I guess haven't we
Mhm.
not done our closing every it's been our
Yeah.
3rd or this will be our 3rd year-end review, let's say.
Well, yeah, I guess we say we don't repeat, but we do repeat to an extent, right? And introspection at a given time is always good to see, where's the podcast? What have we done? How far have we come? Sometimes it can seem like not much has changed in 3 years, but I haven't listened to some of our first podcasts. I should probably go back and listen to, like, a first guest or 2 and
See if we've
then
gotten
listen to a
better or
modern one, and, yeah, just see how it's changed, right? I haven't really done that
well, and
much
I
yet, and
have we not answered our own questions? The question? The first
I think
memory you have of or I wonder if it'd be different. This would be interesting. The memory do you recall answering this first of all, and would it be the same or do you I don't even remember.
I
Have
think
we done
that
it to
we've
ourselves?
I think we have.
I
I
must
think
have.
kinda remember doing it. Yeah,
My
I don't know
first
if
memory, I'll just say it, and this will be interesting if it differs from what I've said in previous episodes or previous year ends. Or whenever we did it. I don't even remember when we did it. But my first memory where I feel a connection to a tree, and it was actually wasn't the great I was swinging off a branch, and, the branch broke. And I was young, and I remember landing on the root flare, and it really hurt, like, it hurt my back, like, it's probably one of the there's a couple memories, like, I remember wiping out real bad on a bike ramp. These older kids in the alley built a big ramp and no one wanted to take it because it was too big, but they talked me into doing it. And I broke the spokes out of my bicycle on impact. So like it was a pretty high jump. And
right.
although, it was as big as the house according to my recollection, but somehow and I did get hurt. I remember the handles jabbing me in the ribs. I thought I broke my rib. We were waiting we were going to church, and my dad came running out in his church attire and scooped me up and carried me. But, the reason I tell that is the feeling I don't know, when these memories when you first get hurt really bad, then the feeling you of helplessness and fear that sort of overtakes you, or at least it did me. That was what happened when that branch broke in the tree because I was swinging away, just having a great old time, and then it just snap, bam, and I think it winded me, and, that was very much tied. I don't think it was, like, in a resentment with the tree, but that experience was tied to that tree, and I remember I was in a playground kinda, but the tree thing. So that was the first time and probably I don't know if I wasn't really climbing it, but it's weird that when I think of my first memory where I feel a connection to a tree or a thought where I connected with a tree, that's what I think of, and it's not traumatic, but it was painful.
Mhm. Right.
I wonder if I've said that story before, I probably have. Do you remember yours?
I don't really have one. I don't
That's what you
have a
always
lot
say,
of
yeah.
but I don't have a lot of memories before I was 11 years old for various reasons, right? I just don't.
Right, right.
I just don't, and then you get past 11 because my dad was an arborist/forester. Trees were just I mean, I spent a lot of time in the woods for many reasons. 1, because of my dad's profession, and 2, just because I like being in the woods. I don't really have a one specific, memory where they've just always been there, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And I hadn't realized how unique it was, until really started talking with people on the podcast that got into trees maybe a little later in life. Like, to me, it's never just been, "Hey, Tony, go over, stand by that tree." It's always been, "Go over and stand by that white oak," right? Or go stand, like, they've always had names, they've always been specific things. Like, my dad just didn't get a Christmas tree. He's like, "Oh, we're getting a Norway spruce this year." That'd be a terrible Christmas. "We're getting a Doug fir this year," right? Or, "We got a concolor fir this year." And you can tell it because if you grab the needles and you scrunch them a little bit, it smells like orange. I've just always, it's not, that's been from the earliest memories that I have. I don't have a lot, like, I can't define just one,
Yeah, yeah.
right? I can't. Like, probably the closest I could come is I do specifically remember when I decided that try as I might, I was not gonna get away from arboriculture and I was gonna end up being a career, right? Because when I was probably 28, 27, 28, just finished college because I started later because I was in the military and got my degree in philosophy. Didn't really want to go back to school. Had a couple offers to go to law school because when you have a degree in ethics, that's a lot of people want you to go to law school. I'm like, I don't want to go to law school, and no one was really offering to pay me to like a full boat ride. So I'm like, I certainly can't afford it. My brother still needed help, because the company was growing, but it was still in the position where it needed help. And I can remember sitting down with him. They were still renting an apartment. My niece was 2, 3 years old, just and we just sat down and said, "Okay, I'll do it a couple years, I'll help you out for a couple years and I'll figure something else out." And I just never figured anything else out. Just before you know it, it's like, "Oh, here, well, now I'm 17 years here," right? Um, and stuff there. So that's about as close as I could come to it.
Well,
There's really not.
there's a list of specifics in there, it's interestingly enough,
Mhm,
like your ID hint about crushed oranges.
mhm.
That's a pretty specific memory around a tree
But
related.
it's not it's just something I know that I know
Yeah.
my father taught me. I can't sit here and close my eyes and remember him
Yeah,
teaching
yeah.
me that. Or, white pine has 5 needles in a bundle because there's 5 letters in the word white. Just things like that like when I was in Boy Scouts and they were doing the tree identification merit badge, no problem, you know?
Yeah,
It's kinda like because of Boy Scouts, when I went to the Army, we were learning knots, like, no problem. I can tie knots all day long, those kinda
right,
things.
right. Yeah, it's interesting, I wonder how much knowing the names ties into it because I didn't know when I got the job at the nursery at the University of Saskatchewan when I was there, and I got put on the out in the nursery, off campus, much to my chagrin. I was looking forward to hanging out on campus with all the guys and girls,
Mhm.
and I got stuck out in the nursery with these old dudes, which were like my age now and older even. And but they only did, everything out there was in Latin, and that's how they talked about the trees. They were old nursery people, right? So I didn't know pine from a spruce or a and so, and I was just out of high school, so I learned the Latin names of the trees. In fact, it was the weirdest thing because I didn't know the common names. They never talked about them in common names.
Hmm.
So, like, I knew a green ash as a Fraxinus pennsylvanica, and that's what I didn't know. I had to kinda
Yeah,
learn the common names afterwards,
yeah.
but I knew the Latin names, and I knew how
I
to
was
spell them, which was weird too because we would do inventories in the nursery, and we had tags, and we would collect seed, and everything had to be labeled properly, right? So, it was just part of the
Mhm.
job was like, who gets a job like that? It was such a weird thing. But, little did I know it would end up, you know, literally, changing the trajectory of my kinda life really in a lot of ways. Interesting. And,
Yeah.
and I wonder how much knowing the names draws a connection, to trees.
I think so. It almost has to. I was the opposite. Like my dad never used scientific names, or I have a bit of a pet peeve. I never call them Latin names because I'm pretty sure
Oh, right.
Marcus Aurelius never said Pennsylvanicus.
Yeah. Well,
So they're scientific. Well, that's my pet peeve. But
I think it was
he always just used common names.
was it
And
Linnaeus
then
that started the
I think so. And
yeah,
it's a
when
Latin
he's
base.
when
It definitely is.
yeah,
But
yeah,
you can't call. So I just prefer. But anyway, it's like so I
yeah.
didn't. I had to learn those later, and even now my knowledge of that is fairly rudimentary. But, like,
Okay.
tree identification, if you know 10 trees in your area, you know 99% of the trees in your area. So, I can get through my 10 common ones. I know Acer and Quercus and,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
could get down into
Yeah.
the nitty-gritty there, but other than that, it's not been a
Well,
I
and
have to look a lot of that up.
that was one of the things that well, I don't know if Shigo did, but some people lamented, with ISA didn't it took a low road on scientific names, right? Uh,
Mhm.
and, some people lamented that because every time you lower the bar a little bit, then you lose some of but I don't
Uh,
know how important it is. One thing I did that and, I think one of the reasons the students like me as a college instructor, particularly with plant ideas, I never would mark Latin spelling. I just thought it was an
yeah.
absolute waste of time, and I think I carried a bitterness from from instructors when I would go because
Right.
that was a good way to get yourself a bell curve, right? Like, and
Mhm.
you spell Sudatsugo wrong, which is just a weird thing to spell in the first place.
Right.
And, I got 99 on a turf exam because I spelled pretensus wrong with a PRE instead of a PRA.
Oh,
And it's like, come on. Like, you know
that's a
what? I
little
know
too
what it is. I
ticky-tacky.
know it's yeah, but technically it's not right. And so when I taught plant ID, like I said, the last thing because I would see students literally like memorizing and working hard to memorize how to spell it. But in doing so, they didn't really learn how to identify it. And I'm like, it's
I
more important that you know what it is than how to spell what it is.
Right. Well, and I was like, it is kind of sad that the ISA doesn't use more of the scientific nomenclature because in an academic stamp, it makes a big difference. Like when I write articles,
Yeah.
I always try and refer to that because for me, it's a box elder maple. For you, it's a Manitoba maple.
Yeah.
And if you don't know that, it's not going to make sense. But if I give this, the scientific name, then
Yeah.
or if you don't know, you'll look it up and go, oh,
Yeah.
Tony must be talking about this. And it gives a, now, I find common names are fun, just what people call things, like in
Oh, yeah.
California, a sweet gum tree is a liquid amber, which is
Yeah.
much closer to the scientific name, but for me, it's a sweet gum tree,
Yeah.
right? Um, and that's neat, and then I just love the colloquial terms are always fun, and those are fun to use in person, but when it comes to an academic pursuit or where you're talking with people across broad ranges of, growing zones, you should use the scientific stuff. It's just more accurate, right?
Yeah.
And if you can't spell it, then you can't spell it, but and I would argue if I had a professor that would, basically grade me against, I would say, well, if Latin's a dead language, right? How do you know it's spelled right? Right. You know, because we spell things differently in English than we used to 400 years ago.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
say maybe my spelling's correct and yours isn't.
Yeah. Well, I
But
I
then
think
I
it
have authority issues. So,
yeah,
it's just to be expected.
yeah, and when I fight authority, authority does not always win. Sorry, Mr. Mellencamp, but
No, I win consistently. In my own mind, I've yet to lose against authority because it's the old, if you want to go down you can lead them to water, but you can't make them drink, right? The old horse cliche. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. Well, you can make me think I'm under authority, but you can't make me follow.
one of the things that I think about when I think of our podcast that I find interesting is how we just kinda get right after it, and we've had some from, I don't know, like, interesting guests that have quite a resume, so to speak, and we don't
Mhm.
ever really get into that. It's something we've just sort of decided to stick with, and
Yeah.
some people might know who people are, and we also have such a range of guests too. Some,
Mhm.
local people we know that not a lot of people might know, and then we have some people that a lot of people do know within the pond of arboriculture, such as it is with
Mhm.
us. It's also I'm looking forward to this season. Just a little sneaker for some people here that we're gonna I'm gonna expand the our guest repertoire, I suppose. I don't know what you call it, but the pool I'm gonna dip into. We've been pretty much, the scope of people that we know, and Tony and I having our entire career basically being in arboriculture and being involved with the international tree climbing championships and traveling trainers. We've met a lot of people over the years, and we kind of draw on that. I've been on lots of committees with ISA, and we've got a lot of people to draw on still that we need to get on the show. But recently, I've my scope within tree interested people has expanded into being on the Tree Canada board of directors. And a
Mhm.
lot of people on that are not traditional tree people at all. In fact, they're more business oriented or bankers and this type of thing, and politicians even. And they've agreed. Several have agreed to be on the show. So we've had some, and we're gonna have some more in the new year. And it's the first time we're going quite outside the traditional scope of people because most of our guests are either an arborist or very closely related to arboriculture, I would say, Tony, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And which is it's good. I think it's good to broaden our. We need to try and find some younger guests too. Not that, interviewing the old guard of arboriculture, male and female is a bad thing, but we do lack a bit of perspective of somebody that just got into this industry, right? or has been in it, say, 4 or 5 years. Like,
Yeah,
that's a different perspective, and I would love to do that, so we
yeah, it
make
seems
a
like it's harder
conscious
to
effort
nail them
to get.
down or harder to, get them.
Yeah,
They're always
that's
working, and when
exactly,
we're
they're
not,
working. They don't have time to sit around Monday morning with us and chat,
we're gonna have to
which I
do some
guess is
evening sessions or something or serve beer.
exactly, right. Well, what's my old cliche is if you want arborists to come, you better be offering free food. If you want them to stay, you better be offering free drinks,
Yeah.
you know? So maybe we'll have to do that. I don't know, virtual something or other. But yeah, I would love to get that perspective because it would be interesting to see why somebody gets into this line of work today, right?
Yeah,
Like,
or how it happens or if it's changed or if it's different.
right. And I look forward to, talking to people on the Tree Canada board because they're obviously there's connection to trees or they wouldn't be on the board, but yet they have a
Exactly.
whole nother set of experiences that, are not tree related. It's like I think I went to a conference years ago. I don't even remember which one it was. And there was a speaker there. It was like a keynote speaker. He was a pretty interesting guy. I don't remember his name, didn't make that big of an impression on me. But he had a great piece of advice. He says, sometimes go to a conference that you have no business being at. Right. So, and you've been to you have you're in a big conference center and you're at the tree show, but down the road is like the podiatrist conference or something. He said, just sneak down there and go sit in. And he says, you'll get great insights into your own conference. And I've done that a couple times. And he's absolutely right. You'll be sitting there listening to someone talk about something I know nothing about. Right. Like some medical, it was literally a podiatry conference. I'm like, the foot doctors, hey, they got to be exciting. Let's check that out. So I go down there and I'm sitting, and I don't know, and like just these different, I just started to make connections about other things that did matter to me and just the way they saw things. And some of it was presentation style, like, how they were, because it was obviously at least the talk I was at it was data driven, right? It was like,
Yeah.
it was spreadsheets with, charts and numbers and all this. And I got a lot of insights on just how you could accurately or at least concisely get through a lot of data like that because sometimes I have to do that. And it was interesting. So that would be my piece of advice for 2026 to the Tree Actions audience. Go to a conference you don't belong at and go to one of the talks and see what happens
A
because
conference
it's
crasher.
yeah. Well, I didn't crash. I just sort of walked in and like you act like you know what you're doing, and
Yeah.
everybody just like for
And
a
if you
tree
got a
guy, I was pretty
badge
well
from
dressed.
another conference, it might almost like they might slip through the crack.
Yeah. Well, if you have a badge, period, right? And you just sort of slip in, and if they stop you, you're like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know."
Is
It
this
wasn't like
not
I
the
was
right
trying to sneak into the reception and steal all their alcohol. I did that later, but it was
That's what I
different.
said, it's a conference crasher.
Yeah, well, that was conference crashing.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that was, but that's a whole nother story. But yeah, so I don't know. I highly recommend it, and it worked. It's funny how, this reason for that story is I look forward to talking to those guests because oftentimes when you talk to somebody where there's a slight connection, trees,
Yeah, yeah.
and they're on the podcast, so there's another connection, and then you see their perspective, it really opens up my own perspective, and I can see
Yeah.
things in a different way, which is valuable at any point for any time of any reason.
Yeah, keeping in yeah, others' perspectives is always good,
Mhm.
and having to know being open enough to listen and to ponder, to consider, another person's view and experience is always, I think, worth it in all cases.
Mhm.
It's like a
Yeah,
box of chocolates, you never know what you're gonna get.
right. Well, I think I've addressed this before, but one of my goals when we started the podcast 3 years ago was to become a better listener, right? To listen to hear somebody, not listen to respond to somebody,
And,
and the
I was
podcast.
thinking about that just a
Yeah.
little bit ago because 'cause you've said more in this podcast than you think said in all the rest of them this year.
Right. Well, it's because it's a podcast about, like, our journey and you and
I
I,
know.
right?
But it's
One
funny,
of
I'm
the
sitting there, "Man, Tony's
consequences.
talkative today, usually he's just listening."
Right. Well, one of the consequences of doing that is sometimes people think I'm a little bit dim, but like, 'cause I'm just listening. Like I'm trying to digest, and then there's a gap there, and then inevitably, if there's more than 2 people in the conversation, somebody else will be listening to respond, and then I'm listening to them, and like, but it's all right. I don't mind if people think I'm dumber than I am. It makes life a little easier. Um,
I don't
Actually,
know if
the
it's
bar is a
that.
little lower.
I always try to, not leave you standing in the sidelines too long, and I'll
Okay.
So, Tony, what do you think about that?
Right. No.
Hit the mute button. Unmute, unmute.
No, no, I appreciate it, and it
Yeah.
just but that's one of the things that the podcast has really helped me to do, and I think it's a valuable lesson for me, right? It's easy to miscommunicate or not get full communications if and I'm much better at it now after 3 years, far from perfect, right? None of us are ever.
I've found what I find interesting is like anything, you get into it and, this year we got a little behind and we still are like we record a few episodes or several well, and where we have like we've got enough episodes recorded that we're good for 2 or 3 months in advance. And then,
Mhm.
we have a sort of a break and then we do we go through these sort of recording sprees. And then, you have a break and we kind of gotten a little bit under the gun the last few months. And, a little bit feeling like a job. It's like, oh yeah, gotta get some guests. We gotta get some people booked. And then I always am amazed at how once we start in on it, and this happens to so many things in life, like whether it be going for a walk or working out or whatever it is, you once we're in the podcast and we're doing it, I always have so much fun, and I'm surprised how fast it does go, with
Mhm.
every guest, and, so it hasn't gotten boring yet. It's gotten onerous. It's gotten
Mhm.
it's always I don't like being under pressure or timeline, right? Like, it's like, "Well, if we don't get one recorded, we're gonna be skipping an ep" "Oh, we can't skip. No,
Right.
say it isn't so." But, and we've been so far so good, and, hopefully we can continue it. And we
Yeah.
tend to continue, but,
Right. Part of that is, for myself, I need to be consistent because once you slip up once, then it's easier to slip up again, and, no project lives forever, but at the same point, I find that if I can keep with consistency, it's better, and, would it be nice to have 10 episodes in the bank? Yeah, but doesn't always happen, so,
yeah,
we do the
yeah.
best we can with it and run forward from there, and we always have the option to we have enough of a backlog now, we could reissue some stuff if we wanted
Yeah,
to.
our most famous podcast, and,
Right.
speaking of which, do we have our do we know which is our most listened to?
I could probably find it if I understood more about how to dig through numbers, but,
Okay.
it's hard to.
We've got a few of our past guests that have passed on,
Mhm,
and I think I know that some people, and including people close to those individuals, have gone to listen just to hear their voice again and,
mhm,
in a conversational way,
right.
which is kinda cool too,
Yeah.
and, I wonder if there's been more downloads in that or an increase afterwards.
Yeah, I'd have to check on it. Like I said, the numbers are I get from Transistor, which is who uh, the podcast hoster. It's like I'm not saying they're inadequate. I'm just not very good at digging through those things and finding that
And if
information.
we've talked about releasing a couple of them that have passed on in video format just to as a
Yeah. Mhm.
an homage to their legacy
Mhm.
that people could not just listen, but then they could also watch them if they wanted to, and, that's something that maybe we might be airing this year.
Yeah. Yeah, I might very well do. At the very least, I'll put it up on for Patreon members to see it. But then maybe we'll just release one or two just to kind of. I think it's we've talked about it before. I think on the podcast with guests. There's no like arborist memorial, right? There's no place where you can go and like a veterans memorial, right?
Right.
There's no place like that for us. So maybe maybe the podcast could be a portion of that. And those are things that you've started working into courses, especially like the trainer courses where you have the little I don't
Yeah.
wanna call it a what'd you call it? It's sort of memorial, right, on a
Yep.
chair in front where you have just different little bits and pieces, bits and bobs
Yeah.
of things, and that's cool, right, I try and do a similar thing when I have a little bit of a longer course. I have a toolbox, like a little
Yeah.
plastic toolbox that has all my training box, and in it has got some little bits and bobs of stuff like that,
Yeah.
that people have given me for training, so maybe, parts of the podcast and when we re-release things like that, it's just yeah, it's just sort of a tribute, not to mourn, not to celebrate, just to remember, right?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, it's just honoring, right, and remembering
Mhm.
where we've come from and what is important to us. I think all these things shape us and affect us, that whole ripple effect, right, and, It's not a yeah, it's just a respect thing, I think, in a lot of ways.
Mhm.
And I think of it as again, the human forest, there's yeah, a forest, the big trees eventually, well, trees fall, right? And then in a
Mhm.
natural setting, it takes a long time for that log to either not be an obstacle or not be noticed, right? And it's part of the legacy of old tree is long and vast, and long after it's not alive, it's still,
Mhm.
it's serving a lot of purpose and is noticeable and even conjures memory and thoughts and ponders, like a big log laying there, like the bigger it is, the longer someone's gonna look at it and wonder, did that fall? Or how'd that get? Holy cow, that thing was big. Can you imagine when it was standing? And
Right.
that whole concept of, I don't know, that must just be a human thing. I don't know if animals sit and ponder, Uncle Bob. Remember Uncle Bob before he disappeared into the woods?
I don't
I don't know if,
maybe.
if the animals do that. It's a human
Maybe.
quality.
Right. I mean, I think you think about it too, the old log down in the forest that's been laying there. I
Yeah.
mean, pound for pound, it might have more life in it after it's dead than it did when it was actually
Yep.
alive, right? Like if you
Exactly.
were to pull all the organisms out of it and weigh them,
Yep.
there's way more of those than it was, in and of itself. So it's that metaphor, works out well, and just it's that
Absolutely.
energy being released back in. And yeah, it's a good metaphor. So maybe us reissuing some of those things as either bonus episodes or as just regular episodes to revisit those things would be neat. Um, and just
And
I
now,
mean,
yeah, we could get real crazy with AI, and we have enough video footage of, excuse me, of guests that have passed. We could probably create a virtual interview. That'd
I
get
would
weird.
never do that. It's gotta be real live stuff.
Yeah,
I mean,
no,
I
I know.
used AI for a little bit
We've
here and
never
there, but
used AI. There's a disclaimer. Never on this show. Never.
I tried to make it to make my voice sound better or to make me look better, and it failed miserably, so I didn't do it. It's like it said, cannot do. You're asking the impossible, it told me. But it told me politely, which was fine. So it's
Right.
okay. We cannot
Um,
make you look better.
one thing that you may notice in the new season that we're starting to think about integrating is
Mhm.
we really enjoy pithy points. Some of you may know of it's probably one of Alex Shigo's, I don't know if it's his most popular book or known book, but it's a book, with brief messages on tree biology, tree care, and philosophy, of all things, which is why Tony likes it, and,
Mhm.
one of the reasons. And I remember him telling me one time that he wrote it with the intention of it being read in reverse. So, there's, 950 pithy points, and the first message, which would be 951 technically, is to survive, keep your message simple and repeat it. Ignorance of tree biology has been and still is the major cause of tree problems worldwide. Pithy point number 950.
Mhm.
So we we've debated how and where we'll integrate a pithy point an episode just to keep the pithy points alive and well, and it could serve as a, I don't know, just an interesting, because some of these are just wild, like, wow, like pithy point 290 is a joke. The tree and fungus met at the bar. The tree said they had to pay $10 a kilo for phosphorus. The fungus said they had to pay $10 a kilo for carbohydrate. A deal was born. The fungus sold trees phosphorus for $1 a kilo in exchange for the tree selling them carbohydrate for $1 a kilo. This is the true story of how mycorrhiza and synergy started. This is the
Yeah.
true story.
That true story. It all happened at a bar.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, we'd actually consider doing a Pithy Points podcast all on its own. Would be interesting, but
Yeah,
I didn't need I don't think either of us needed another project.
right. Yeah,
But so, yeah, I'm
and I
not sure
have
how we'll
had
integrate
permission
it.
from Judy to do that, to do something with it, and, I haven't yeah, been able to carry the project through to fruition,
Right.
but at least we can bits and bob it, and it's a bit of that historical perspective, right, that
Mhm.
it kinda
Right. Well, if you're not aware of Pithy Points, get you a copy, and if you are, revisit the copy because it's always just
yeah.
a fun read, and I think we'll sprinkle some questions in because we have the question, right, that we always ask. So maybe we'll have a second question or something. The thing is, it's a little bit, well, like all of our things like that. The answer could be one sentence, one word, or it could be 45 minutes. Doesn't matter. It's just, we can't. So. But it is interesting. I like to use it during training courses. Often what I've done is pulled out some of my favorite pithy points, wrote them on a little piece of paper, folded it up, put it in a jar, and then every once in a while, when you need a phase change or a break, you shake it up and you pull one out and you read it. And it's just kind of a fun way to,
Yeah.
um, usually I try and pull ones out, like if I'm doing a climbing course that they're climbing roughly or could be construed as being climbing related. So there's a little bit of consistency there, but it's just a fun book.
Which one
No,
is one of your favorites?
I don't know. I'd have to look. I don't remember the numbers.
Oh, okay,
I'd have
yeah.
to. I just end up
You remember
paging
the
through and
words.
exactly. And even then, I gotta jog my memory. And I couldn't find my copy. It's around here somewhere. My office is in a bit of disarray, shall we
Well,
say?
here's a 320 is a Christmas reference, and it
Mm,
is, after all, Christmas Eve today.
it is Christmas Eve.
My Christmas tree was cut down in December. In April, it was green and looked alive, but it had a serious problem. Insects and fungi seem to know when the curve is only down. Always interesting. So, something that you can look forward to in the new season, just as a little salt and
Mm-hmm.
pepper in an episode, is we will toss in
Right.
a couple pithy points.
Well, we'll have to make sure we toss them in too when you have some of your Tree Canada board members on, because they most likely won't be familiar with it as a text. Although
Well, I
maybe
find a lot of people actually aren't familiar with it, even in the arboriculture
even
world,
in
because
the
it's not
right.
really a text reference, right?
No, mm-mm.
It was a
Yeah, it's
more of a musing book of quips and quirps of his, and, so I don't know how many they actually sell of it, but I know it's still available from Shigo Trees and Associates. So,
yes.
just Google
Click
that,
online.
and, Judy will be
Tell them
happy to
Tree
send
Action
you.
sent you.
Yep, and, it's, and all the other books are all available there too.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All the other good. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how we can work that in, and always open to suggestions as well too.
Yeah. So, looking back on the year, Tony, is there any of
Mm-hmm.
our guests that stand out? Did we not have Mr. Fids and Fibers that was this season, correct?
No, that was
Was that last year? Oh my goodness.
yeah. I
The
can give
reason
you a
I
list of this year's guests. You want a list of guests from this year? I have them right
sure,
here from. Well,
well,
it was you and I were officially the first guests, and we talked to my friend, wonderful arborist in upstate New York, Dan Groves,
yeah,
and we
yeah.
talked to Jim Sciarra,
Yeah, yes, right.
Emily Michelson, and we talked to Noel Boyer,
Yeah.
uh, Kurt Stenberg, who's one of our
Yes.
instructors, our assistant instructors, Ryan Kruljak, another friend of
Yeah,
mine, an
yeah,
arborist
yeah,
out of
that was a
Pittsburgh,
good one.
Charlene Scott, who
Yeah,
is our operations manager for and wonderful arborist, but operations manager for Arbor Canada. Mark Graves, we talked with Mark.
yeah, that was a good one, yeah.
Matt Logan,
Right.
another former instructor and wonderful arborist up in cottage country, now a Bartlett-owned company as well. Craig Bachman, a good arborist and author and businessman from Pacific Northwest there in Seattle, runs a tree company.
Yeah.
Nora Bryant, who we talked to,
Yes, Nora.
wonderful fellow author and wonderful, wonderful story. Rebecca Seibel, another great arborist out of
Yes, yeah, that was a good one too,
the
about the horses.
Driftless region. Will I get that right? I think. And
Yeah,
then Robin Adair,
yeah. The hockey episode.
the hockey episode. We talk about anything from trees to hockey.
Yeah.
And we talked to Zeb Haney, another arborist from the Seattle Pacific Northwest, the
And he was in
Washington State line.
Alaska when he did the recording, wasn't he?
He
Somewhere up
was.
there?
He was doing a training course in Alaska, and it was yeah, so it was crazy. And we talked to the infamous Michael Taine, the
Right.
house himself,
Yes.
and we talked to Danny LeBlanc, alumni instructor and arborist out of the Atlantic provinces.
Yeah, where was our wasn't that our first maritime or Atlantic person?
Might have
I
been.
think it was.
Yeah, might have been. Then Jared Abergina doesn't
Yeah.
need any introduction, and we had a great conversation with Scott Baker once again out of the Pacific
Yes,
Northwest.
yeah.
And then Menno was our first one from. Well, I think he was the first one from Australia, right? We talked with
He
Menno
was New
Quaiters.
Zealand.
That's right, New
We
Zealand.
haven't
That's right.
had
First
an
one.
Australian guest yet. We need to
No,
get on
we
that.
haven't. We haven't. Right.
And we need to get
And we
more
chatted.
Euros too.
Oh yeah, And then the time difference becomes a thing,
I
right?
know, I
But
know.
then we chatted with Tobias Wygand, wonderful
Yeah,
combination with
yeah, that was where
Training.
I was late to that show,
Mhm.
but I made
That's
it.
right. You were late. That's right. That's why I have it highlighted and it says Dwayne was effing late. Oh, no, I'm joking. I don't. Then we talked with the international arborist of mystery and budding politician Otis Sisk. Always
Right,
talking with
yes,
Otis
wow.
is always phenomenal.
And he did a lot of self-promoting of it on his own social and stuff, so he probably got a
Good.
lot of
Yeah.
downloads.
Yeah, Otis is just I just every time I talk with Otis, it's rewarding and, surprising and interesting all
Yeah,
at the
it's a
same
good
time.
one if you haven't listened to it yet, it's worth a
Yeah, and
cast.
then we talked with Rob Knight, arborist,
Yeah,
Canada, and we talked a lot about ice climbing in that one and the
yeah, we
ice
did.
wall we built in the back. And we talked to Tony, Towith, am I say you say his I
Yeah,
forget his I mispronounce his
Taves.
name. Taves, that's it, right. And then Peter,
Yeah,
um, we
Mitch.
talked with, and then Mitch, and then you and I, and
Wow.
that was 2025, so from January 5th well, the 1st was you and I, the 15th all the way down to New Year's. Oh, yeah, 18-ish guests.
And
Uh,
we've already got our, a guest booked for in January, and we'll get some more booked, and, so we already have
mhm.
some
Yep.
in the wings ready to go, and,
Yeah, we certainly do.
we're just gonna continue on having fun and sharing stories. I was, the reason I always think of Mark is that, people are known for something, like, and he's
Mhm.
he's known for splicing,
Right.
yet I don't think we even mentioned splicing in the whole podcast.
Mm-mm.
And so that was the first time I realized, holy moly, like, who knows what we're gonna talk about?
Right.
It's not what you might expect or not what you might expect. That might be a
Mhm.
good thing, and it might be a bad thing.
Right.
So, and the other thing that happened, I think it was this year, where we were at the conference and a listener recognized our voices, just sitting randomly at the breakfast table
Mhm.
and, and was a listener, and it was just an arborist that likes listening to the show that we didn't know, like someone we didn't know, right? And
Mhm.
that was kinda cool experience.
It was kind of fun to get that perspective. I think he was the one that in our conversations, either he said it or we said it, a lot of people it's sort of like eavesdropping on a conversation
Yeah,
of somebody that has a similar interest.
yeah,
Right? And why we don't do a lot of, we don't do a lot of guest introduction and stuff like that because I'm not organized enough to prepare it ahead of time, which is fine. But I like it too. It's sort of like starting a new novel or a new book. Like you have to kind of let the story develop over time, right?
yeah,
Like you get in and there's a character doing something and you're like, what's going on with this? And over time it reveals itself. And I kind of like that from a standpoint and keep it much more conversational. And I think it adds a flavor to the podcast where it's really just a conversation because
yeah,
we've had guests come on and they're very nervous.
yeah,
People are like very. We've actually had people that have turned me down repeatedly to be guests because they just think it's something more than it is. It's
yeah,
like it's just a conversation of a couple tree people chatting about everything from hockey to politics to
yeah,
tree stuff mostly. Sometimes it's technical, sometimes it's not. We find that somewhere around an hour and 10, an hour and 15 minutes, most times the conversation sort of slowly drifts to either we need a new subject or we're going to end.
yeah,
I think
yeah,
we've had episodes that have gone an hour and a half to an hour and 45 minutes, but
yeah,
that's usually because we've got to that hour 10 mark and then somebody mentions something that
yeah,
launches us on a new,
yeah,
but I don't really keep a time frame
no,
necessarily to it. It's fine, usually about an hour, hour
yeah,
and 10 seems to be the natural,
it does.
um, inclination point, and, yeah, so it's I like the informality of it was bred of disorganization, but it's become a bit of a flavor now, which I'm okay with.
Yeah, and it's fun to do, and obviously we enjoy it or we wouldn't continue it, and as long as
Mhm.
I guess sometimes I wonder if nobody was listening, we'd probably still be doing it.
Yeah, exactly. I would totally still be doing it because I still enjoy doing it, right? And, it's I think we've talked about this a little bit before too, maybe not, maybe in other contexts. But it's like with creative endeavors, because I've written books and fiction and anyway, all that stuff. It's if you get if you try and please other people with your creative endeavors, you'll just meet failure. So I just create things that I enjoy and I put them out there. And if other people enjoy them, great. If not, I enjoyed doing it. So go win, right? Like win accomplishment.
Yeah.
You know, and we didn't start the podcast because we wanted to like, Dwayne, we need to make some money, man. Let's
Yeah.
start a podcast. Like it
Yeah.
wasn't,
Oh,
you know, it's not. I'm very appreciative for the membership fees and helps offset some of the costs. But the idea is not to, you know, turn this into a money making, you know, not looking to take sponsorships, don't want ads, don't want any of that. Just want some conversations for people to listen to. And if you enjoy it, great. If not, you know, if you do like it, tell somebody else so they
yeah.
can enjoy it too.
Yeah, and then, I think it helped being able to be listened to on any podcast platform, that when I talk to people about it and they're like, "What's it called?" And they can
Mhm.
look it up on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, and like, "Oh, there it
Mhm.
is. Look at that. Holy cow. It actually is a podcast." You know?
Mhm.
And,
Right.
that we only started doing that, what, 2 years in the 2nd year?
Yeah, the first year it was, you had to have the link
Right,
directly. It was sort of like an unlisted phone number, if you can
right.
remember back to the unlisted phone numbers.
Yeah,
But now it's like a party line.
yeah.
Everybody can get on. Any of you are around, most of our listeners are probably around long enough to remember what a party line was when it came to your phone, but some of them are. Yeah, it did make a difference, and some of I don't know, I just whatever, we make decisions and change, and,
Well, it's easier to share it, I find
Mhm.
it's quite easy, and it's kinda cool that you can, you know, like, search it and find it, and that helps too.
Right. I think the first year I just kinda wanted to see it was easier to see where it was going, right? Like, it was easier to track how many subscribers and things
Yeah,
like that. But like I said, it did make it, not as accessible,
yeah,
as it is now because you can get it on pretty much any of them, I think, and then you
yeah,
can always go on the website and get it too, and we have it linked onto the Arbor Canada webpage, and DJ has it linked into the social media and Linktree stuff for the web page, and there's lots of different ways to find it and get to it.
yeah,
Um, you can get if you're a Patreon member, you'll get like a first 5 minutes of each episode, and so it's yeah, there's lots of it is kind of a cool how simple it is to or at least not complex it is to put together a podcast and get it out to a lot of people at once. You know, it's not a 10 years ago, it'd have been impossible to or much, much more difficult and much more costly probably to do it. Now it's relatively inexpensive and pretty simple to do, right? Just gotta sit down and do some recording.
yep. Well, I was just sitting there thinking it's the 12th month, the 24th day, and the 25th year. Well, 2025, not
Mhm.
25th, but, it's 12,
Mhm.
24, 25
12,
right
24,
now.
20.
Pithy
Mhm.
point number 12. In the spirit of 12, 24, 25 being today's date,
Gotcha.
which could be an interesting way to do a randomization.
Good.
Trees are living things that have defense processes and protection features. Pithy point number 12.
So there's a difference between defense and protection.
Have defense processes and protection features. So processes versus feature and defense versus protection. Living things that have defense processes and protection features. Number 24, today's day, December 24th.
Mhm.
Xylem is a transport tissue where elements essential for life and other substances move in liquids from non-woody roots toward leaves. Xylem up. And 25, the next one after 24. When xylem is lignified, it's called wood. Have always bugged me about the whole xylem thing and all because there's xylem vessels. And when you study for your arborist exams, like I say, you ought to know your, bark, cambium, xylem, phloem, or,
Mhm.
well, I think it's more bark, phloem, cambium, xylem to put it in the correct order. But, like it's a great test question, right? Like, what order does it appear? And there's xylem up, phloem down. But xylem is often referred to in that analogy, it's but more specific, like the growth, what we see as a ring are the vessels, which are
Mhm.
the actual, and that's what this is referencing here, is the transport tissue. But yet wood itself is made up of lignified cellulose, interwoven together, which vessels are part of. but all of it together is still called xylem as well, right? So why is it that like, so we have xylem vessels and you have xylem, but it's all xylem, and you have heartwood, which is older xylem, and sapwood, which is younger xylem, and but, like, it should be to me, it's like, is it xylem? What's between the stuff between the growth increments, you know?
Mhm.
Like,
Time.
you can see the
Mhm.
vessels, you look at it, and they're not that much magnification, you can clearly see their vessels, and then the stuff in between, but we call it all xylem. Anyways,
Lignin. That's
lignin
why you
and
don't
cellulose, 'cause it's not just you can't one's the stretch and one's the blocks.
that's why we don't have 30-foot tall ferns. They just don't have enough lignin.
Yeah, lignin's the blocks and cellulose is the strings.
There you go.
So, yeah,
Good way to look at it.
you tie enough blocks together with strings, and you can make a tree.
Mhm.
But you
Eventually.
gotta have some pipelines in there to water everything.
Exactly. Gotta have the water bonds, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Which are like big rubber bands, which is how Dr. Shigo explained it to me. Well, not me personally, but when I heard him explain it, the water bonds are like big rubber bands, right? You pull them, you pull them, you pull them, you pull them, and that capillary action is what pulls water up into a tree. But if they break, I think it was Dr. Coder explained it that way as well too. A couple times I heard him
Right.
how water bonds work, which is probably why trees have an ultimate height limit, right? Water bond can only be stretched so far. The surface tension of water can only take so much pressure.
Yeah.
Things
Well,
to think about.
fascinating.
We have to start our own book doing deep thoughts with Dwayne and Tony.
Yeah. And it came up in Peter's podcast about the trees living on the outside, that whole living skin concept,
Mhm.
that they're it's interesting, which Hardwick talked about in the late 1800s, the coarse skin hypothesis. I think it was
Mhm.
Hardwick, realized for some time.
Mhm.
Anyways, well, Tony,
Yep, another year done.
another year
3
done, and,
down, another one
we, uh,
starting.
we thank everyone for listening and
Mhm.
wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, even though it's already probably passed by the time you hear this, but
Mhm.
nevertheless, and, we will endeavor to continue to bring educational, informative, and fun listening to your wherever you listen to your podcast.
Mhm.
That'd be an
Wherever.
interesting thing to know, and, most people, if it's, like, while driving, I would assume.
I can tell what podcast players people use, but, other than that, I can't tell too
Yeah,
much more.
yeah,
But
but,
yeah.
you can't watch when you drive, at least I don't think anyone's tried to do that yet, and so
Please don't.
yeah,
It's just not safe.
no,
Don't do that. I don't want to be the cause of your accident or your incident. There's enough hazards in this world. Don't add more. Just listen when you're driving.
yeah. Well, that's all you can do anyway, right? The podcast
Exactly.
it's a listening medium.
Alrighty.
Thank you, everyone, for another great season, and
Absolutely.
we'll see
Best
ya.
in the new year, and we'll be back in a couple weeks with yet another guest yet to be determined.
Yep, we will. Have a good one.